Happy Hump Day, everybody, and welcome to Brown Bag Bets. Powered by BetSperts, we are your daily dose of quickie and handicapping and sports betting picks. Andrew, how are you on this fine day? Did you stay up and watch all that Michigan game, or did you wake up to a surprise like I did?
Yeah, I ended up, I didn't want to stay up late. We were just saying this off air. I wanted to just be like, oh, all right, Michigan's up by like 10 or something. I'm going to go to bed. Just never happened. Stayed up for the whole game. These games are so late. I'm just washed. Like, I don't want to stay up till midnight watching a game, although it was great. Really good ending. Michigan had some good looks down the end. The other game was actually kind of awful. I'm a cheering for Gonzaga, brackets, futures, pick them, everything, but still, it was like, man, this is rough. And USC was a team I like. I thought they were going to give them some trouble defensively. I don't think anyone's going to give this team defensively. I just pulled, and this isn't a good book, but I just pulled up a skin, like a PPH skin, and looked, and they had futures up still. I wanted to see what UCLA's price was, which it was silly right now. But they had Gonzaga minus 265 to win it all at this point because they're minus 1,200 to win this game. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what it is in the final. The parlay math isn't going to make them a very good price. So, feeling good about my Zogs. And, again, we're running out of games, but the promo still goes on. You can still get your $500 risk-free bet. Use it for anything. You don't have to bet the tournament.
Imagine if you use it for UCLA.
Oh, yeah. Like, just lay some underdogs. And I even put up a tweet last night. I bet against UCLA in the play-in game. I've mentioned this a couple times. Like, I bet against this team not even to make the tournament, essentially. So it's been they've proven me wrong over and over. But yeah, $500 risk-free bet when you sign up. Links are in the pinned tweet on the Brown Bag Bets account. And we'll get into some picks later, but it's gonna be a heavy golf couple weeks here. So we figured we'd bring in our guy to talk a little golf. This tournament sucks, but we're gonna bet it because we bet every tournament anyway. And it just gets you ready, gets you in shape. So our guy, Mr. Mazzola, James, West Coast Mazzola. It's like 6 a.m. for him there. I'm very excited that he got up early to join us here. So without any further ado, James, how we doing today?
Good, man. We're going to have to change that. I'm up to a 6 handicap now. So by the next time I get on, we're going to need to move that. My game is in shambles.
Oh, man. I swung a club for the first time in a long time yesterday, just outside. It's a 10 iron that's just been like hanging in. It's not in my bag. My bag of clubs is somewhere else. It's a 10 iron that sits in the garage.
And everything hurt after?
Somewhere. Yeah, it didn't. Awesome. Yeah, the grip on that thing is like rock hard. It didn't feel good, so awesome. I'm gonna have to get that one regripped for those those special times when you need a 10.
Not often, but there are times, I guess.
Very rarely.
So Valero Open, I kind of talked about this yesterday. You're getting some of the guys that played match play that aren't good. A couple of good players. A lot of guys come up from Punta Cana, play here. Some other randoms, and then basically like that. We won't go through it. There's 20 ways, I believe, to get into the Masters.
Yeah.
They're not using like 5 of them because like the Pan Am, whatever it is, Pan Am amateur championships got canceled. There's a few amateur championships that got canceled. The British Open finishing top 4 there the year before gets you in automatically. They didn't play that last year. So they're not using all the different ways, but there's still like 15 different ways to get in. And I don't know if there's anybody. The only really way left is to win this weekend.
Yeah.
So there is a bit of that. Like somebody that'll be exciting. Like even if it's not one of my outrights, it'll be exciting for someone to play their way in. I want somebody on the outside looking in to play their way in because that's always fun. So it's a shit field, but there's still some fun. There's still some fun golfers here, and yeah, there's plenty of outrights offered for some reason.
Gosh, plenty of head-to-heads. Poulter played his way in one year. He won the week before, and that's how he got in. And I was actually on him that week. I don't think it was this tournament though. The schedule has changed so much over the last 2 years that I have a hard time keeping up with that. That's what I use Haven for. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those tournaments where it's like, if a guy has his tickets punched already and he kind of, doesn't play well on Thursday, you can almost guarantee he's going to mail it in on Friday to get out there into Augusta a little bit earlier. But, generally speaking, the field is terrible. but there's plenty of outrights that I like this week. I have to admit, but even this tournament, like the last two winners have been like, triple digits. Landry was 300, Connors was 200-1. So, it makes it a little bit difficult when you have past champions coming from such long odds.
Yeah, it's not super, forward facing to say, I just have to find a long shot, because there are some guys, there's some shorter numbers that can absolutely win. Like Spieth has been playing very well, answers down to 20 and under 20 at some places, but it is a goofy. And you did mention that maybe that's a better way to attack it. And this is, something like, how Noops, you do this like, this isn't an NBA game I want to really bet on. But when I run my numbers, there's some pretty good numbers on the first or third quarter. There's a player prop maybe you want to attack. Like what you said, and we've been keeping a close eye on the weather, because there's possibility of some wave advantages depending on the wind and how much you believe these weathermen. But maybe you hit on something there. Keeping an eye on the Masters field, looking up who's in the Masters field, who's not, and then looking at some of these guys who underperformed on Thursday. Like, here's a guy that was supposed to be a middle of the pack guy. He shot a 76 for no reason, just played like garbage. He's already in the Masters, and he's matched up with somebody you like on Friday. Like, I think there's going to be a lot of daily matchups to pick off on Friday.
No, I agree. Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, we have good old first round leader stuff. That's always fun. And I went ahead last night and I added like 6 more full tournament head-to-heads. Bookmaker, did their usual late night ads. So I went ahead and a lot of the ones we talked about yesterday, actually. So I was able to find most of those. So it's a full card. I don't see any reason not to attack it. We have plenty of, course data to know what's successful here. And, it's a golf tournament. I'm going to bet everything. I bet all the damn golf tournaments all year, except last week. So I'm kind of itching a little bit because I didn't do much last week. I don't really like that tournament. So we got to get back on the horse.
So you guys talked a little bit about some of the look-ahead fades, and Andy, you mentioned this is the last chance anybody has to get in the Masters. Is there anybody that is here, in your opinion, James, to try to make a run to win this tournament to make the Masters? I was looking through the list. It seems like just about all the big names that are here are already in, but I don't know if maybe I missed anybody.
And I haven't actually looked at that, so I can't be certain. The Masters field is small. It's the top 50 players in the world. Anyone who's won the Masters before, obviously, so that's why Larry Mize is in there every year. If you had won a major, within the last couple of years, and then anyone who had won on tour over the last, and again, this has changed because of COVID, obviously. So they've extended out that qualification. So you have a smaller field than normal, but it is still an exclusive field. So, I mean, a guy like Cameron Davis, I don't believe is in that field. I don't think he's top 50 in the world at this point.
Gotcha.
A great golfer, 55-1. I mean, he could easily win this tournament here this week and earn himself a spot in. I don't think Sam Burns is in the field. I don't think he's top 50 in the world, and I know he has won. So, even the guy like Lanto Griffin, I'm looking at these guys, and these guys are all in the 50s right now, pretty much across the board. So, I think there's plenty of good guys who can make a run here. Everyone's favorite, Cameron Tringali. He might be top 50, though, at this point because he has been playing well. I have to check. Again, I don't have this information readily available, but at the same time, there's plenty of good guys here. Chris Kirk's another one. These guys are all in my wheelhouse. Like, I like to bet the guys 30 to 60. And there's a ton of them here that I think have a chance to win this week for sure.
I think it's top 50 at the change of the year, like at the end of this season.
Yeah,
or at the end of the calendar year. It's either the calendar year or the golf year. But
no, it's like 2 tournaments ago. It's like it was like the 3
top
tournaments
50
ago.
thing. Yeah, there was like a cutoff point to be in the top 50. Lanto Griffin is in. The other 2 you aren't. Like legitimately, I've had this tab open for 3 days. The Masters field that I've just been Control F. Like, is this guy in? And a couple have been surprising. So I've been like, oh shit, this guy is in. Like,
a lot of random Euros.
One, yeah, there are a bunch of Euros. There's goofy ways to get in, but yeah, like you said, there's like 6 old guys that play this every year. So, like, not only is it a super exclusive field, but I mean, there's like 7 spots that are dead because there's always one amateur that just like he lucked his way in, or he's a bit young to be playing here competitively, and then like Larry Mize and some of these old timers that have won it, in like 1986, and they just keep playing it every year. So it is a tight field. This is a lot different. You mentioned first round leader, and I don't want you to give away the Kool-Aid
I don't think
because the secret is just using a few things and trying to find some value on some prices. But like, you put your card together in a way that you're balanced out. So, if a guy's 50-1 to win it, you're betting that to win about 6 units. If a guy's 100-1, you're betting that half as much. So you're trying to, the way you do it every week, if people follow you, you put it together. So it's roughly about a unit risked to win 6. So you're betting, kind of a 1 to 6, 1 to win 6, no matter who wins it. So it's nice. You don't have to cheer for one guy over the other, really. It's a couple dollar difference here or there. If the longer one wins, it's actually worse because some of the other ones you bet a few bucks more. But like what goes into that? And I mean, I suppose it does change a little week to week with some of these wind waves, but generally, like what are you looking for guys like that?
Yeah, so I mean, essentially what I do is I turn it into a 5-1 proposition on anyone who's going to win, right? So I'm risking a unit to win 6. Once you knock out all the losers, you're left with 5-1. So, and that for me, that just allows me to get. And at first, it was like to kind of rear me in almost to make sure I didn't overbet the thing. I was like, this is what it was almost like. Hey, you need to have some kind of limit. And it just, it worked, and I'm sticking with it. Whether or not it's, it's the most efficient way to go about it, I think you can argue that. And again, when you're betting in the first round leader market, I mean, this thing is juiced out of its mind. I mean, the vig in this in that market, the hold in that market is insane. It's even higher than most of the outright market. So we're doing it mostly for fun. I think we need to probably make that clear. This is not by any means, it's not the edge that we have in a full tournament head-to-heads, let alone the round by round and the outright stuff. So, but it is also the best bet in sports. It's the most fun bet in sports when you're sitting there, with a guy sweating it out, his wave, and you have the whole damn afternoon on Thursday, which is pretty much done, trying to make sure no one catches it, right? So a couple of things I look for. What I've noticed is that, and I've gone back and looked at this, the top of the market rarely has that first round lead. And there's a number of reasons for this, right? So the first one is when you're at the top of the market, obviously, favorite to win the golf tournament, you don't have to go out there and win a golf tournament on Thursday. You can lose the golf tournament on Thursday. You can't win a golf tournament on Thursday. Most of these guys realize that. So their goal is to get in there and make that cut, right? And then, Saturday and Sunday is when they start moving. The guys who are 50 or higher to win a golf tournament, they don't have that luxury, man. Like these guys, most of them don't have, super steady tour cards. Like they have to go out there and try and make birdies on every single hole because that's, they're playing for their livelihood. Whereas the guys at the top of the market, they're solidified, right? So what I've noticed is, anywhere from 50 and above, and again, that's not saying much because probably 4/5 of the field is 50 and above, right? So I like to find those guys who pop in my model, who I like just generally speaking. So I'll usually have them in some way in the head to head, round by round, head to heads, round by round, 3 balls, right? So. And then obviously, when we actually have an edge is when there's a weather advantage because the books just don't factor that in. And now that's not every week and you have to pay attention. It may be this week. I'm looking at it. It looks like it's going to be pretty steady, but that's when there's actually an edge because the books they just grab the outright markets. It's a derivative of the outright market for the most part, right? So when you do have high winds in the morning or high winds in the afternoon, if you can grab those early guys or those late guys who have the easier conditions, you can absolutely gain an edge in that market.
Yeah, it was like the comparison I made to the first quarter thing. And, exactly. When you're doing first quarter, first half of almost any sport, oftentimes those aren't adjusted properly for 90% of games, they're probably pretty nuts on. But for a few games here and there, you can look at those derivatives, and a lot of times they have a formula. Like if the full game's 10, first half's gonna be 5.5 or 6 or whatever they want to make it. And a lot of times that's nuts on, and that's where it should be. But there are times where just using your math to make those derivatives isn't right. Yeah, with the wind, it does suck. Kind of track this wind, not only just because weathermen. And I'll tell you about the weather. Betting on the weather can be successful sometimes.
Yeah, Alex is the weather better guy. He should be. We need to employ his services.
Bring back quarantine. Let's do it, baby.
Bring back quarantine. But there is something to be said, and I just wanted to ask you, basically, because I was going to ask you this anyway in the chat, but. Is there anything to the course this week as far as the winds? Like, we're saying when we say wind advantage or wave advantage, we're saying like maybe the morning it's like 6, 8, 10 mile an hour. And then the afternoon we get 15, 20 mile an hour gusts. The afternoon plays harder. So there's an advantage. We're not going to really look at guys in the afternoon. But also when you play Thursday, Friday, and, you've seen this abnormal distribution, brought it up on the timeline. Sometimes there is a thing where we were looking at possibly high winds in the morning, which is a little backwards, and then calming down in the afternoon, and then normal weather for the rest of the week. So then if you play in the afternoon on Thursday, you're scheduled to play in the morning on Friday. and vice versa on the other way. So if there is something like that, there does become like a full tournament edge, because that's half the tournament where one guy might be playing in much easier conditions. But I guess my question was going to be these, with these high winds and what we've seen from this course in the past, like, is this thing going to dry out? Are afternoons just going to be tougher anyway?
So this course in the past, when the winds kick up, they've just watered the shit out of it. And so when they do that, the course, the winds don't really matter, because these guys on a wet golf course will just absolutely eat it alive, right? And we've seen this, when the ball sticks and it's spinning, or they can make it stop and control it, they're going to absolutely destroy any golf course. Now, when they hit a wedge and it hits 5 feet and it rolls out 2 feet, then now they're going to have some problem scoring, because it's hard to get into those tight pins, right? So this course in particular is hard to judge, because they've done different things with it. We've seen it be 9 to 12 under, and we've seen it be a 20 under, right? A lot of that has to do with how they want to keep the course. Now, here's what I have heard is that Augusta is going to play as firm as it has at any time ever, right? So what they're saying is they haven't had any rain there. They're going to make this thing hard. It's going to play fast. It's going to play firm. So my thought process is, wouldn't the players who are there, who are going to Augusta next week, want the course to play relatively similar, so they have a little bit of of experience on that before they go get the hard stuff again next week. So again, it really matters what the superintendent wants to do, right? It matters what the greenskeeper wants and what the PGA Tour wants. I'm not in their mind, and the problem is normally they play a course a certain way, like Riviera. As long as if it's going to be, we saw it this year, if it's going to be good weather, they will play that course hard and firm. We have plenty of examples of that across, endless amounts of sample. Here, they've done it a bunch of different ways. So it's just very difficult to know where they're going to go with it. And again, I mean, it's important to remember, like, I don't even know if everyone knows this, but like half the field plays the morning, half the field plays the afternoon, right? So there's 140 guys out there. So, when they do flip-flop, you can find advantages like that. It's really more important in the DFS world, in my opinion, because you're just looking for those guys to get through the cut. In the outright markets, we're playing 4 days, and I don't factor it in as much unless it's a huge drastic difference, which maybe happens 3-4 times a year. British Open obviously excluded from that.
Yeah, it makes it
what a British Open is like.
Maybe you have to go back and see just like what the weather's been there for the last couple of weeks. Because, I mean, James, any greenskeeper, any superintendent is going to want to save the greens. They want to make this look nice. They want it to be hard. But at this point, it's the end of March. It's early April. They can't have a burnout like this. No. So I would assume that, unless it has rained a lot this week, I think you're right. They'll probably come out in the afternoon and water the crap out of that thing.
Which, I don't like that. I like hard and fast golf courses.
I do kind of like golf courses. No, and that's just something like, that's an informational thing. Like, if you get yourself networked, talk to other golf bettors, like that's usually something like somebody shares a tweet in a golf DM group I'm in. Like, oh, here's what they're going to be doing. Like we've seen that at like Memorial the other year, where it's like, oh man, they're just going to let this get harder and harder. Like, they don't give a shit. Like, sometimes there is a superintendent who's just a hardo, and like, you need to look at that. And I mean, you can say, well, everybody has to play on that surface. Everyone's playing the same course. It's going to be, well, there's certain guys that just can't land a ball on a green when it's playing like that. There are guys who can acclimate their iron games to that and still play well, and there's guys who just absolutely can't. So I will say before we I'm going to make you make some picks, I guess, before you go.
We brought them all the way over.
And we'll pump this up a little too. Next week, we've done Masters episodes. We've done them on like Wednesday, which is just stupid. On the deep dive I'm talking about. So James has agreed to get up. It's not as early, and come talk deep dive Monday. So little preview to that deep dive Monday. We'll let it breathe a little, because this show's a little shorter. We get a full hour of James talking about Augusta. Obviously, look for his stuff on. Before we do any picks, will you be releasing Augusta outrights this week, like we talked about?
100%. I already booked a Tahoe trip for tomorrow, so I'm heading to Tahoe literally tomorrow afternoon, and I'm going to go up there and finish it out with the numbers that Circa has. Yeah, so I'll have a full card by tomorrow.
We've talked about this in the past with when you have those golden hours, like, oh, Rom pulled out, and guess what? The prices are all gacked, and we need to hit them right now. Well, right now, like, what would you say the percentage chance that Brooks Koepka plays the Masters is?
10%, 20%.
Yeah, I was going to say like 10, 15%. Yeah. He's like 20, 22 to 1 in the market. It's roughly a 4% win equity. Like, he likely doesn't play. right now. And right now he's listed in every market because he's not officially pulled out. If he pulls out, he's probably going to do it early next week. So if you do believe in that, it might not be a bad time to get some Masters futures in, especially if you're looking near the top of the board, because that 4% is going to get distributed and everybody's going to shoot up just a little bit, especially, maybe the 100-to-1 guys aren't going to suddenly be 75-to-1, but some of these guys near the top of the board are going to move up. So if you are looking at Masters futures, it might not be the worst case to jump on those early, because the upside is you get a better number. The downside is Koepka plays. And honestly, is that downside? He's hurt.
Yeah.
If he plays, that's just as good, I think. So.
I'm trying to figure out between JT and Bryson, because I'm gonna have one of the two, and I don't want to make the wrong decision. So I'm trying to figure out which of the two I'm gonna put on there, because I do think a guy up top wins, and those guys are prime. They both have wins recently, and obviously they're playing well, and have the pedigree to win a green jacket for sure. So I don't know which I'm gonna pick. I haven't quite decided yet, but I'm gonna definitely go with one of them. I have basically the exact same edge on both of them. Once Brooks withdraws, obviously.
Yeah. So before we let you go, and then we'll get to some tennis and NBA here at the end after this. But an outright, give me an outright. People like outrights. Like the head-to-heads are. No one likes it. It's not sexy. It's no fun. And
I'll give you one of each.
Obviously, you can find James's whole card on his Twitter. He's going to put it out. He does the For Profit podcast. You can listen to that. And if you want more breakdowns, did Matchbook yesterday. You're on You Better You Bet. You made the whole media round.
Yeah. But, I'm gonna be exhausted next week.
Something long shotty that's kind of still in the same price range that hasn't moved yet.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, and I know you're on this guy as well, but I'm looking at answers up to 30-to-1 for some reason. I don't really understand that. So, that's by far my favorite bet. And I mentioned, Cam Davis already, mentioned Sam Burns already. If we want to go all the way down the list, Doug Gim is an interesting guy. Went to UT. I'm sure he has some kind of experience on this golf course. He was the #1 amateur in the world, coming out of college. So, I like that pedigree. And we've seen him play well recently, with Justin Thomas in that second to last group when JT won. What was that? Players? Players. There you go. So, some recent form. So, if I'm going to go any further than JT or any further than that, I'd go Gim. And then, let's get a full tournament head-to-head. We're fading Sky Scheffler and Joel Damon. So go find those. That's an easy one. I don't have to really even dive into it. Joel Damon's still hammered drunk from winning and put the or whatever the hell it was. So those are my two fades, and there's a million matchups where you can take advantage of that.
He did mention that, and the quote from Joel Damon was pretty good. He said it was his first win ever on tour. He said, I hope there's many more of these, but I'm going to celebrate like this is the last one. So
that's a direct quote.
how he might feel after a few days of celebrating in his stupid bucket hat might be silly. So
go dogs, baby.
Well, follow James on Twitter at JMaz with 2 Z's and then a JD at the end. Look for him on the deep dive next week. And thanks a lot for the time, man.
Anytime, boys. We'll see you guys soon.
See ya. All right. I'm excited for I still can't. The Valero Texas Open. So, all right. I promise some picks. We'll get some picks outside of golf here. We'll talk a little NBA before we head out for the day. What do you got?
Two picks here, a money line and a sort of money line. Sacramento's a small dog here visiting San Antonio. This is another situation. San Antonio, Sacramento played on Monday night. That game closed. San Antonio -2.5. This line opened. San Antonio -2.5. Sacramento won that game by 17 points. Yes, I think some of their shooting numbers are going to come down. But just in general, I think that the market is struggling to figure out what the Spurs are doing. As you start to look, they've been really poor lately. I think part of it is they've had some injuries to Lonnie Walker. Popovich has just been very bizarre in the way he's giving out minutes. Older guys like Rudy Gay and Patty Mills are still getting like 20 or so minutes a game. When you have younger players, again, like Lonnie Walker when he comes back, or DeJounte Murray, Keldon Johnson's been very good. Devin Vassell. There's just all this nice young talent that he doesn't seem to be using. And the Kings really have played well since the All-Star break. Ever since they lost Marvin Bagley, they've stopped trying to force the ball inside. The offense has looked much nicer. They've scored at a lot better pace, and the defense has actually been a little bit better with Rashawn Holmes getting some more minutes. So happy to take the Sacramento Kings here as an underdog, +120. I'd play this down to +110. Really, plus anything's probably fine, but I like +120.
I like the Kongs. I need what's his face to do well for Rookie of the Year.
It's Mr. Halliburton, he continues to play very well. So, by the way, folks, if you don't have some Halliburton Rookie of the Year, go out and look. There's still some 4-1s, 5-1s out there. Scoop that up. He's should be the favorite, if not tied for the favorite, basically, at this point. So I think he'll have a good game. The other one we have here, Dallas -1. To be perfectly honest, I'm a little nervous about this. Dallas -1 against the Boston Celtics in Boston. Jaylen Brown is hypothetically out. Luka Doncic is healthy. Kristaps Porzingis is healthy. They're not on the injury report in any way, shape, or form. I don't know why Dallas isn't a much heavier favorite here. There's a small little part in the back of my head telling me that somebody knows that Luka or Kristaps is taking the night off or something, but I've seen no reporting to that. And this is just a big edge for me. I have Dallas as a 4, almost 5-point favorite in this spot. Again, Jaylen Brown being out is going to be really tough here. He's someone to be really important to have, guarding Luka Doncic, being there to switch with Marcus Smart to really slow him down. Instead, they're just going to have Smart. Tatum's not going to be able to stay with Doncic, and Porzingis, again, if he's playing, all due respect to Time Lord there, but Robert Williams is probably not going to slow down Kristaps Porzingis, and whoever comes in for Williams is definitely not going to slow him down. So Dallas -1 here, despite the fact that I am totally expecting some injury shenanigans here, Andy.
Yeah, that stuff happened. And just like you talked about with Washington, people that were happy taking Charlotte at a short number were rewarded. Washington got out there. Washington certainly didn't even cover the late number, did they?
Mm-mm. No, they didn't.
Got up to 5.5, 5.5, 6, something like that. So
Charlotte put it really nicely.
Get into later in the week. We'll get into stuff like this, but I played a 13 off the Open. I'd still play a 14. Fuck it. Like, this is just don't overthink it. There's the narratives around like, oh man, they're really making good teams shoot bad. Like that's just variance. It's been variance. And UCLA has certainly played better than a play-in team. They're probably more like an 8 seed than an 11 seed, but they are still not on the level of like a Creighton or just what the number was against some of these other priced teams that went up against Gonzaga. Like, this should be like 16. I think this number's still probably a bit light. Gonzaga's not the kind of team that misses. Like, you can't hope that they'll miss a bunch of free throws and they'll just miss all these, like Michigan missing those layups late. Everything was just not falling. Gonzaga has too many good players. They're too experienced. They should truck them. Hopefully they win by 100 and we can be done with this UCLA nonsense. So I didn't play this big.
Not a Bruin guy.
I put a little bit of money on here, so I'm doubling down on my futures.
I like that. Gonzaga looks just a well-oiled machine. That's a lot of chemistry there. Every question that anybody's asked, they've had a quick answer for. And there's something about hairy white dudes in headbands that I think is scary. And they have got a lot of hairy white dudes in headbands.
For sure.
Little tennis here for you to tide you over for the afternoon. Let me just double check when the actual time of this match is. I believe it's this afternoon. But Bianca Andreescu, the Mississaugan Mammoth, BVA, is playing Sarah Sorab's Tormo. Tormo has been just absolutely fantastic this year. It looks like this match actually be about 7 o'clock Eastern. So that'll be on about the same time the NBA slate gets kicked off. But, again, another spot here. I like the over 20.5 games. I would have this at a juicy 21, a cheap 20 at 1.5. The over 2.5 sets here. I'd have this probably plus 150, maybe plus 155 at the absolute worst. Just two players that have played a lot of 3-set matches here. Andreescu, I don't think has had a match under 3 sets since she's been here, frankly. You look at Tormo, same thing. Two women that know how to hold, that know how to get a big break at the end of sets. I think this will be a very competitive match. I do expect Andreescu to win. So, sticking with the 20.5 is a bigger bet, a little smaller stake on the over 2.5 sets here. But another great spot for some overs, Andy.
Yeah, the last 2 matches for Andreescu have gone over the two set mark. They've gone into the 3rd set. And even her very first match of the tournament, which she did win 2-0, did have a tiebreaker. So we went to 21 games in that. So she's covered the 20.5 in all 3 here. So look for some action tonight because, no college basketball for a few days again. Golf doesn't start till tomorrow. So, it's tennis and NBA for tonight.
Do some work. Spend some time with your kids. I don't know.
I'll probably do a deep dive. Actually, you know what? Baseball. Deep dive tonight, another baseball guest. Special baseball guest talking baseball analytics, talking all those stats and acronyms that you don't understand because I'm trying to get a little deeper into baseball this year. So bringing in
FIPS, MORPS.
Yeah, FIPS and XWAX and XWAX
Ricks,
Plus
Mortys,
and all that stuff.
Yeah,
We're going to get into it tonight on the deep dive talking baseball. Opening day tomorrow. See you guys.
It's tomorrow.